Greetings, traveler. You've come to the watering hole that is This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where our group of friends get together and share topics that we've learned and lightly researched through the week. This is episode 56, recorded August 16th, 2021. I'm your host, Brandon Vader, also known as Dracanis. Down below me, we have Tim, also known as Fake Farang. And next to me, we have Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous. We are missing Colton Roper / Seeker 4761, as well as Charlie, also known as Muehlner. They have other things that they are unfortunately being tasked with tonight. And honestly, I almost forgot. I did forget, but we'll get into why I forgot later. For now, Cody is going to talk about possibly the worst name for a phone. Okay.
You'll see.
I may. Yes. Okay.
You probably know already, actually.
Yeah.
And then Tim says he can't access OneNote, is going to talk about Thailand COVID questions.
No, well, you'll see. Yeah,
Okay.
it's something a little weird.
I'm making up a tagline for him.
To my okay, but COVID related, yes.
All right.
Well,
Cool.
I think
And
Brandon's
I'm just
gonna go
talking
first.
about. Yeah, I'm talking about the chaos that has been my life the last 2 weeks. Car show. We had our 33rd annual car show here in Gunnison. If you were able to attend, fantastic. I hope you enjoyed the 207 cars that showed up. Less than a normal year, but honestly, way more than I was expecting.
Yeah, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, well, so 107 were pre-registered, but we were taking pre-registrations up till this past Thursday, which I think I'm going to put a stop to for next year because I am now in charge of website registrations, both pre-registration and at show registration, helping run the registration booth, balloting, and I'm sure I'm missing some.
Wow.
Oh, and I'm the secretary for the club.
I would think website would be enough.
Yeah.
You'd think, but me along with two other members are the only members under 40. Under 50, possibly even under 60. Most of the guys in the group are older and look at computers with such disdain that, yeah.
Small town Colorado for you. That
Yes.
attitude. There's plenty of
Yeah.
older people that know computers.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
not
Just
small-town
not
Colorado.
this group. Well, I'm not even going to say that because there are some wonderfully educated older people in Gunnison that could probably whip me at certain computer tasks. But within this car club group,
Cars
so
are what they know.
Yes, they know cars, and then they know whatever their day job is, and they are great at that. They're great people, but when the wonderful woman that had been doing all of the online registration and on-site registration decided to step down earlier this year, they basically went, "Hey, Brandon, you're good with computers. Have at it." So I did all 107 pre-registrations, which isn't bad. You can pull all of that down from the website in a CSV, comma separated value file, which opens up in Excel, and you can copy paste that into the standard Excel layout and do whatever you want to it.
Yeah.
The problem comes with the way we do placards, which, of course, I got rid of all of the placards. Basically, pre-printed out forms. No show and tell this week. Pre-printed out forms that we then additionally print out, like name, make and year, make, model, where they're from, and what class they're in. That way, when you're voting on the cars, because the participants vote, so the people who enter cars are the same people that then vote on best in class and best in show, people can actually read it, because if I were to try and handwrite these things, God only knows what people would actually be voting on. Thankfully, we have plenty of people that don't type every day and only type, so their handwriting is beautiful, and I was able to hand off the other 100 cars that registered same day to them so that people could read the placards. But yeah. And I got to use my custom program for the second time ever, which was exciting because it worked. So I built up this, the way we used to do it, like the first year that I joined, and they were like, hey, you're going to take over balloting because the person who wants to do balloting is leaving. It was literally reading the ballot and having a printed out form with numbered cells, and you would put a tick mark, tick mark, tick mark, and then set that ballot aside, grab the next ballot. Well, for every car that's registered, there's a ballot. So 207 ballots this year. And you would have had to do like, okay, car 31, tick, car 27, tick, car 1, tick, car 107, tick, and be flipping through paper. So the way I have it now is this program just, you can 10 key and just, 31 tab and the class and enter, 30, car 127 tab class 13 enter, and just do it that way. I still have some optimization I need to do, because the idea behind putting the class is you're not allowed to vote for two cars in the same class, because it kind of basically throws your vote away. So
what, you don't have ranked choice voting for your cars?
No.
Come on.
You get 10 votes, and they all have to be in different classes.
Maybe that's next year's model for your program, is ranked choice.
Nope, not gonna happen.
On, Brandon, get with
what I would really like to do is put in like a one-time use code that we just print out, stapled like the magazine inside of the goodie bag, and they just tap it, and then they can walk around and enter, okay, I like car 27. Okay, I like car 131. Okay, that way they're entering their own information. I don't have to try and discern whether someone's fancy 1 is a fancy 1 or a 7. And I don't have to discern if their 4 is a 9. And then
you need to make it so people can change their vote too, though. Like if they're looking around at cars, they're like, oh my god, this car's awesome, and then like 10 cars later they go, wait, this one's better.
Right. There would have to be that, which would also mean that it would have to tie into, so I would have to make the actual car registration, rather than just an XML file, it would actually have to be a cloud database. So then it would automatically look through and see, okay, well, you've entered you've entered a choice for class 1. Now you're entering another choice for class 1. So do you want this car, and then it be able to say 1927 Ford T-Bucket Roadster, or do you want this car that you've just selected, which is Chevy 2-door or whatever. And then it, maybe that would spark your memory and be like, oh, yeah, I like the T-Bird better, or the T-Bucket better, or nope, this car is definitely better, replace my vote. I don't know. It's something I'm still playing with. I don't know if I want to put that much time and effort into it, because
especially since
even though that would,
if you're doing everything that is potentially electronic in the car show as your forte. So yeah, I can see that.
It would allow me to actually go, like, I was not able to go out into the field of 207 cars and actually look at them. I was in the telco office of the Pioneer Museum the entire day. The only time I got to leave there is wants to go to the bathroom and then wants to go pick up more registrations. So I got to see some of the cars as they would come in and register. And then I'd take my stack of forms, go back, data entry. Thankfully, my mom is really good with a computer and knows 10 key. So she was helping me enter stuff. But yeah, could have been better, but it also, like, the process that I have now for balloting also is not as much of a time crunch. Like, it used to be like down to the wire and we were like sprinting up as, they were giving the 5-minute countdown to award ceremony. Like sprinting up, okay, here's the paper. And then you invariably have, somebody who is like, oh, well, this car isn't, the right, it's modified, it's not restored, or it's not original because it's had a repaint. And we are a casual car show. We are there to have fun. We are not there to judge people's fucking cars. And I told a few people that, like, day of, as they were like, well, I mean, this car's not original because it's had a paint job. I am not a professional car judge. I am not going to be a professional car judge.
Yeah.
I work in IT. I like fast things. I like shiny things. I am not qualified to look at someone's paint job and be like, no, this is just a really good, buff and clay bar job on this very well taken care of car versus, this is a very nice repaint. I don't have the tools or qualifications. We're not going to hire someone that has the tools or qualifications to do this because that's pedantic.
How many cars aren't repainted though?
Yeah,
but I know that's just an example. That's just an example. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Or, well, that
original
spoiler
part versus
isn't original to that car.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's pretty. If you don't like it, don't vote on it. That's why we only have other car show participants voting on the cars. If you think you're an expert and you think that's not original, don't vote on it. I had a wonderful Karen that I got to
nightmare. That could become a nightmare. You're going to need certificate of authenticity for this and that, and it becomes such a nightmare. Yeah.
Man, you're going to have so much extra work with that. No.
Yeah, no, I had a Karen approach me after somebody was like, so who's in charge of registration? Who's in charge of classes? And I happened to be there grabbing more forms, and they were like, him.
ADD moment. I have a friend who's a Karen, and she's not a Karen. And I feel so sorry for her.
Yeah.
I feel so sorry for her.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Back to your
I feel bad about using it, but it's a common enough term.
Yeah.
But yeah, I shouldn't. I had this lovely woman that wanted to speak to the manager, and I was the manager. And she went off on me about a particular car that was not original because it did not have the factory wheels. They were obviously repops. And I'm like, then don't vote for it. Well, but it's running in the same class as my husband's car. Okay, great.
Don't vote for it.
Then don't vote for it. That's all I can tell. The other car club the other car show participants are the ones judging it.
And you can try and convince them not to vote for it too. Like, if you really care that much, and I'm sure your award-winning personality will make them not vote for it.
Oh God, I was so mad. So tangent. Sorry. Cody, did you ever meet a gentleman by the name of Al Caniff when you lived here?
No, that name does not sound familiar.
Okay. Vietnam vet, amazing guy. He takes care of all of the cars at most of the cars at the Pioneer Museum. Like, just giant teddy bear of a man. Like, amazing. Super friendly, super awesome. So he comes to me very upset to tell me, Brandon, I need to change the class that I think he has a '29 Ford Model T truck, and he had it listed as restored. And he said, I was asked to change it to modified by this very insistent person because the wood is not original. It has wood paneling for the bed. The wood's not original, and the rims aren't original, and it's been repainted. And it's like, okay, but it's restored. Like that's what that means. Like you take a vehicle and restore it to original.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
only
yeah.
modification is this awesome plaque that he had made for the Levita Hotel, which if anyone has been to Gunnison, the Levita used to be like the 5-star presidential hotel in town. Why we had one, I have no idea. But presidents actually
If
stayed at
yeah,
it.
and if Gunnison did not have, if the day did not have sun at some point, your stay there for that night was free. That's the one thing I remember about that hotel.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, if the
Wow.
day was not sunny at some point during that day, that 24-hour period, your night there was free. And that shows you how much sun Gunnison gets.
Yes. No vampire worries here. That's for sure. But
Vitamin D.
yeah, so he had this plaque made because that's what they would have used back in the 20s to bring supplies in and out of the hotel, is a truck like that. And he works at Pioneer Museum. Like that's the only
Mm-hmm.
modification that was done, and that's badging. It's like this big. It's like
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But he was very upset, and he was like, just go ahead and change my registration. I wrote the number differently on the placard, hand wrote differently on the placard. Just go ahead and change it in your system. And it's like, why is someone. And you can tell it's an out of towner because anyone in town that
Wouldn't be
is
doing that.
in the
Yeah.
car show is going to know him and is not going to bully him about a frickin' plaque or wood trim. They're. Yeah. Anyway, that has been the chaos of my life. So I forgot that it was Monday. The only reason I went to work is because my phone told me to go to work. And apparently I need to update the podcast day in my phone because um, Cody had to remind me, hey, are you coming to the podcast
Well,
tonight?
luckily you were still on Discord, because it's like, well, I'm guessing Brandon's showing up. So we have the other two that are out for personal reasons or other reasons that aren't personal. I don't know.
Scheduling
Reasons.
reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reasons.
Anyway, and so like Tim and I are in Discord and waiting, and like, okay, I see Brandon. Brandon's like, he's got a green dot next to him, so he's somewhere. He's not here. And I guess he's just running late. And I sent him a message after he's sending me a message, with questions. And like, hey, are you coming? And the response was just priceless. Just shit. Capitals. Like, oh, yep, you forgot.
Oh yeah, totally. But I'm here. I'm having fun.
Yeah. One question for you
Yes.
though: is your show already been on, or is it still coming up?
No, it's so it was this past Friday the
It
13th.
was. Oh,
So
okay, okay.
I got to choose the dates this year because they were like, well, we could do it the 13th, 14th, 15th, or we could do it the following week. And I'm like, I love Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's my lucky
Good
day.
luck day.
I got my driver's license on Friday the 13th. Like, good things happen to me on Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And so that Friday we close off 3 weeks or 3 blocks of Main Street downtown, and everybody can kind of cruise their cars into there, park, walk around. We have normally we have live music, but because of the unknown of COVID and everything else, when
Mm.
we finally got approval from the city and county 2 months ago, um, we didn't feel like trying to find a live band to come up and do it. So we
Mm.
had a DJ and he set up a karaoke machine, which there were some entertaining things that happened with that later in the night because people started drinking. Um, so yeah, they get to come in, and if they register for the car show, great, they can come up to the booth and they can do registrations that night. If they're pre-registered, they can get their placard and goodie bag. And then Saturday is like the car show where everybody shows up, parks in the main park of the town along the highway. We had 207 total cars for that. And basically, they start showing up. Well, we say we start parking at 7 o'clock. We had people there waiting at 6:15 in the morning because they wanted to have their spot with their crew. Whole nother rant there. But then we did awards at 2:30. And we were done by 3 o'clock that day. A little bit of light cleanup afterwards, and then Sunday is the breakfast cruise, which we usually have way less participation there. I think there were somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30 cars and about 50 total people for that, and that's always fun because that's always the people that actually drive their vehicles, and are generally like the better people. I hate to say better people.
It's fair to say that. Yeah.
They're the more sociable and they're there to have fun people rather than that car's not original, that car's modified. You end up with the more
petty
fun
people.
Group. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's okay to say better. It's absolutely to say better with that.
So, yeah. So it's done now. Chaos is pretty much over. I still have. I'm trying to decide whether or not. So the day of registrations, I only put in the cars, and we collect email and full addresses and stuff like that to then be able to invite them next year. And I need to go back through the 100 registrants that we got same day and enter in all that information to the master database, but I'll do that later. Maybe I'll just do like 10 a day.
Yeah. Because
I'll be done in a month. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so our big thing is done, and we have somewhere in the neighborhood of about $5,000 to $6,000 that we get to give away because of the car show to local charities.
So, good.
Yeah. Not a bad way to spend basically 2 weeks of my time, but
glad it's over.
Chaos during it. Yes, I'm glad that is the big event for the year, and now I can go back to just focusing on the normal stuff.
But, good.
Yeah. So, Cody, why don't you tell us about the phone with the weird name?
It would be better if it was a phone with a weird name. This is a phone with the most normal name ever. And what I am talking about is the phone called Smartphone for Snapdragon Insiders by Asus. That is the name of the phone. That is the name of the phone. Smartphone for Snapdragon Insiders. It's poorly named also because anybody can buy it. It's not just that. And what's going on is it used to be where pretty much Snapdragon had a corner on the market for their processors for mobile, for phones specifically. And now everybody seems to be making their own processors. You've got Apple with their own processors. You've got Samsung. What is it? Samsung's Exynos?
Exynos.
Oh, Exynos. Okay. All right. And then you've got like the one I just bought, which is MediaTek Dimensity, which doesn't seem to be a great processor, but it works. And then there's another one, a Kirin from High Silicon. Yeah. So like there's a bunch of new processors that are in this space now. So Snapdragon kind of, starting to feel the squeeze, is realizing it probably needs to market itself a little bit more. And what better than to come up with their own phone, kind of, by Asus. So
So didn't
Asus is a
sorry
strange
sorry to
partner.
sorry to punch in, but wasn't Asus also one of the big partners when Intel did their mobile chip?
I actually don't know. This is kind of a realm that I stole from you because I saw an interesting article and I didn't know what to talk about until about 45 minutes before, and it was like, oh yeah, I forgot that I read about this the other night. But I didn't even know that Intel had a mobile chip for their stuff.
They
So that's
were the first 64-bit processor in mobile phones, if I remember correctly.
interesting.
Yeah, and of course now I can't actually find it. It was either Asus or nope, it was Asus. It
Okay.
was the
So
Zenfone 2 ZE551ML.
and what year was that? Or do you
It's wow. I say it's still selling on AliExpress, but no, it's not. It's not available.
Okay. So it was
Uh,
quite a few years ago then at this point. Or it did so well that it sold out this year. This is standard TWIL research
no.
for you guys. Anyway, this phone for the SSI, I'm just going to call it that now, is kind of a non-flashy, it's pretty much a non-flashy, maybe arguably slightly worse version of the Asus ROG Phone 5.
Okay.
So it doesn't have the crazy styling. It does have a Snapdragon logo that's but otherwise, and the battery is actually a little bit smaller. So it's got a 4,000 milliamp battery versus the 6,000 milliamp battery in the ROG Phone 5. The ROG Phone 5, like the really big version, goes for somewhat crazy. I mean, this is like a $1,500 phone that they're touting. It's 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, a 144 hertz screen, and still no water resistance rating, no IP rating, which is the reason
Is that on
why.
the ROG phone or this? Is that on the Republic of
Both.
Gamer? Oh.
Both. Like I said, they both have very close specs. The 4,000 milliamp is the SSI versus the ROG phone, which is the. It's actually technically two 3,000 milliamp batteries to make 6,000 milliamp. So, I mean, it's a fast, beefy phone. It's got a 3 different cameras, and I can't remember what the cameras are offhand, as far as megapixel and whatnot. And it's touting some like new technology with the Bluetooth audio, so low latency. And a matter of fact, like the demonstration models came with a set of earbuds, but strangely enough, they said that the sound quality isn't really representative of what it is, that you should really pay more attention to being able to use the Bluetooth in crowded environments. And when I say crowded, I mean like crowded radio environments, crowded electronic environments without your
Okay.
Bluetooth disconnecting. So that's what the reviewers were supposed to be testing, not necessarily the quality of the sound itself, but the fact that
Are
it's
they
not.
are they using their own version of Android, or is it basic Android? Like,
That's a good question. And
because they're not
I
commonly a cell phone company, Asus, right? They don't have
Well,
a lot
no,
they
of
are.
history with
Asus
that.
is because they've got the Zen phone and they've got the other one.
Oh,
Now the ROG phone uses a special, their own skin on it. Um, and I'm trying to remember what that's called. It's like ROG UI or something. I don't know if the SSI uses their own version of that as well. So
I've never seen this phone or any Asus phones in the market here. Have you?
In Bangkok, in 2019, they did have the ROG phone. It was either 2 or 3. So they actually skipped 4, or Asus did for the ROG phone, because it's popular to skip 4. TeamSpeak 3, TeamSpeak 5, ROG phone 3, ROG phone 5. Nobody likes 4. So,
Yeah, we skipped 4 today and went to 3.
Yeah, exactly. We went from
You need your
5 to
badge up
3,
here.
so we're doing the opposite.
Yeah.
We still don't like 4. Yeah, so I guess it is everyone.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
the Asus had has had phones here in the States. My son for a while used a Asus Zenfone 5Z because I bought it because it was the like highest performance I could get while still being cheap.
Mm.
And well, relatively cheap. It was a $600 phone, but I mean, it had all of the flagship. Like it was, apples and apples performance-wise to the Samsung Note of that generation. The main difference was a little bit smaller screen. It had the notch rather than the like pinhole camera or anything like that. And yeah, I think the camera was not, of course, not as good as like Samsung or Apple, but I used it for like a year and a half and loved it. My son used it for probably about a year and a half, and then when my ex-wife's phone died, I was nice and handed her that out of the desk drawer, and she was using it for about a year.
Yeah,
we got
I mean,
Pocophone.
Asus.
Pocophone was ours for that same type of reason, features and price.
Oh yeah, Pocophone F1.
Yeah.
I was looking at one of those, but it didn't have the band coverage here in the States.
Really? Okay, it worked fine in Canada. Okay.
Okay.
They had a global version. There was 2 different versions of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it
the
depends on
global
what
version
network
here in
you're
the
on.
States. Yeah, I was with Straight Talk at that point. I hadn't moved to one of the proper, like, standard carriers, and I guess their agreement with AT&T, because they bounce off of AT&T and T-Mobile's cell coverage, basically didn't allow them to operate on the normal bands, and they were only allowed to operate on certain select bands for 4G.
Wow.
So I wouldn't have had 4G here in Gunnison anyway.
Okay.
Ooh, that would be brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this phone and Asus does, they're a really good quality hardware manufacturer. Like anybody who builds on computers knows this, with motherboards, with computers.
Laptops.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using an Asus laptop right now. I mean, yeah, they are fantastic. But
Taiwan company, I believe.
they're pricey, too. And, $1,500 for a phone, that's a hard pill to swallow. It's got almost all of the features that I would want in a phone. The SSI or the Asus ROG phone, which is what the SSI is kind of mimicking, but for plebs or people that don't need, RGB everywhere. The thing, though, for me...
Please stop RGB.
No, RGB is beautiful. Keep with the RGB. Just have the option to turn it off for the people who need monochrome in their life. The thing for me that for the reason why I still would not buy this phone is a phone is something that you carry around with you everywhere. It has to be with you all of the time, no matter what you do with your life. And to have something, and this is something that I ran into recently, even with this, is a lack of an IP rating is a deal breaker for me. And the only reason I was going for this is because this was like $400. I am willing to throw $400 away on a freak accident that, water gets in my pocket, I get caught in a rainstorm. I am not willing to throw $1,500 away on a freak accident. That's the difference. That's the problem. I understand with that type of hardware that water resistance is more difficult. It is not impossible, though, and companies like Apple and Samsung have shown us this. So here, if Apple and Samsung can do it, and Razer Phone 2, the Razer Phone 2 had an IP rating, I believe it's IP67.
How'd that work out for you?
Had, at the time, it had the best Snapdragon that was offered. So why can't ROG? Another thing that's different between the SSI and the ROG phone, and why the SSI is a downgrade, is that it does not have the... This is old news at this point, but I have to nitpick. The ROG phone for $1,500 has the headphone port. The SSI does not. Again, a small little nitpick. None of my last 3 phones have had headphone ports, but I'm just saying, if you have to choose one, you might as well go for the flashier RGB one that has the crazy RGB back that the ROG phone has, and not the SSI. So, that's my take on this, at least, and it's interesting. But God, they need a better name. They need something else. Like their marketing team, just I don't know what's going on. Did they fire their marketing team? Did they?
Or are they must have all been sick. They must have all been sick, and they let an engineer choose the name.
It's like, you guys are insiders because you like Snapdragon, so you're gonna buy this. Anybody can be an insider. That's like...
It's a developer platform. Well, yeah, my Samsung Note could be a developer platform too.
It's like me and my close group of 5,000 friends. It's gonna be a close gathering. And on that note, Tim, why don't you just tell us about...
Dash our hopes. Dash my hopes.
Yes, about...
Okay. It's a tough topic, because you got to understand, here in Thailand there's 2 major power groups, one being the royal family, one being the military, and you basically can't talk about either. So decisions are sometimes made here, and you wonder what their the motivation is. And as a result, right now, as to whether there's a democracy here in Thailand, it's up to debate, as per there's protests going on in regards to this. So that's about all I can say safely about that. But on the COVID side, there's some interesting things. There's some very good science here as well. And then there's some things you wonder, you get concerned as is it political, or is it really science based? On the news this morning, what they've been doing now for about a month, is the first injection is a Chinese vaccine called Sinovac, which has proven that actually there's 2 doctors who died last week who had both Sinovac shots months ago. But there's been studies showing that after 3 months, the antibody response drops quite a bit with Sinovac, so it doesn't offer any long-term protection. So the Thailand government has decided that the first shot will be Sinovac and the second shot will be AstraZeneca. But according to the news this morning, the study that said that is effective was only consisted of 71 people who had the Sinovac and AstraZeneca. So it's not a very big study.
That is a small study.
A small group.
Yeah. But in the meanwhile, and I've sort of been following this story, there's been a university here that's been trying to develop its own mRNA shot. But they've been they've been very realistic, and I'll post an article of this story. But they, even before this, the guy in charge of it, it's a very legitimate university, and they've been realistic. They know that their vaccine wouldn't be ready for COVID-19, but the thought was, well, maybe it could be ready for future variants, or maybe it could be ready for other viruses in the future. And so they've already got their vaccine ready, and they're starting to do tests. And I just hope there's no political involvement, and they allow the test to go full before they use something like this. But I'll post that article in the links that will be in the show notes. There's another one that really concerns me, though. It's another doctor. Let me just pull up my article. Who is saying, and it's a very short article, so it may not go anywhere. But he's suggesting that Thailand go intradermal with the shots at a lower dosage. So basically,
what is only intradermal for us that aren't?
All our shots are the shots that we get for our vaccines right now are intramuscular. They go into the muscle.
They go into the muscle.
So intradermal is only into the skin. So he's proposing, based on one study, that they take the vaccine and go intradermal, and basically it's at 20% of the dosage that was recommended by the manufacturer. So he's basically saying that you'll get 5 for 1. You can inject 5 people for what you're injecting one person. But I just, I don't think there's not enough study to take that risk with people. And then the third story is that there's another Thai company or Thai companies that are starting a study on 2 COVID-19 vaccines that are administered not intramuscular, not intradermal, but by nasal spray. And those studies are human trials are supposed to start by the end of this year.
Okay, so they're in trials, and we have to see, and good work.
Yeah. So the reason there's things that have been said in the media that I don't think as a foreigner I can repeat, but Thailand never entered into the COVAX program, which they were recommended to do. They relied on AstraZeneca, but yet they only signed a contract for 6 million shots a month. So it's just been a political mess here
and for reference,
regarding the vaccine.
There's sorry to cut you off, Tim, but this is important for our users or not users. We don't have users. It's like an addiction, TWIL. We have users. So Thailand has 70-something million people here, so thus 6 million would not necessarily be sufficient.
No, that's very 6 million. 6 million is not even 6 million people. That's like 3 million.
Yep. Yeah, because you need
3
2 doses.
3 million vaccinations.
2 doses.
Yeah, that'll put you in a couple of years.
2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and by then you're going to have other variants because we've seen that already.
On the scientific view, there's some interesting stuff, but sometimes politics gets involved and takes over from researchers, people doing the good work. So hopefully that's not a thing that happens here.
Yeah.
So that's all I can say, but I'll post the links that I have.
Yeah, and I think that mRNA vaccines are kind of the way of the future, but because they're the way of the future, there's a lot of people like in the U.S. that don't trust them. I've recently heard podcasts from the U.S. where there's really low vaccination rates in the south of the U.S. just because people don't trust that. People don't trust that new technology.
Well, here in the States, the vaccine has been politicized and mask wearing has been politicized. Rather than people listening to the scientists and the doctors, they're listening to politicians, which immediately bifurcates people to one side or the other. If you
And
wear a mask, you're an idiot Democrat. If you don't wear a mask, you're an idiot Republican, and
yep.
nobody wants to listen to facts.
And
Yeah.
even like in Alaska, when I was living there, different stores would look at you differently depending on what political bent the store had. So if you were wearing a mask, and I'll be blunt, this is not a political podcast, but I am neither one of those sides,
Yep.
which is one of the reasons I don't live in the U.S. anymore. But anyway, to not get onto that topic. So when I wear a mask and go into a store that has, one side of bent, they look at me like, oh, you must be this. And it gets really weird and really awkward. And then when I walk into the other store and they, want to crucify me for wearing a mask, it gets really strange. Or, at the point in Alaska before I left, it was vaccinated people don't have to wear masks. And I was vaccinated. So, I would go in, and if the majority of service members were still wearing masks, sometimes I'd still wear a mask. And if everyone was maskless, I would basically do what other people were doing, but you would still get this weird, attitude depending on which side that you took and which side the store was. It was
what a stressful
crazy.
thing based on freedom of choice.
Yeah.
It would be so stressful.
It was so weird. And another funny story that I had actually heard, and I'll have to give credit to the Bangkok podcast for this, is so here in Thailand, Thais that I've talked to, absolutely they want Pfizer and Moderna. That's what I've heard over and over. Even the joke of, like, when I was coming here, could you please bring some vaccine from multiple people, not just Tim, from a lot of other people. Well, there was recently a group of mushroom farmers, legitimate mushroom pickers, that wandered across the border to Laos accidentally. And before sending those people back to Thailand, they were vaccinated with Pfizer and then sent back. So apparently there's now a bunch of memes going on in that region about, thousands of people crossing the border into Laos, which is seen as a less developed country order.
Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, they're all ahead of the game because they participate in the COVAX thing.
And I think
but Thailand, for
somewhere
reasons, wanted to buy from the Chinese or make their own AstraZeneca.
And I thought I read somewhere that maybe they're trying to get into it or not. And again, different. It's hard for me to. I need to be able to learn Thai to really get deep into the news sources. Otherwise, I'm dealing with translated news, which isn't from the horse's mouth.
I get it. I get it from my wife directly while we're watching the news shows. So, like I say, there's a lot I could tell you off camera. Just because the news says it doesn't mean I can say it.
That's true.
Yeah.
And especially since we do, from time to time, have opinions on our podcast, that some of that stuff we should stay away from too. Anyway. Yeah. No, it's an interesting situation here. I think, what I will say is that I think things are going to start to get better here. Like, when I look at where Thailand is versus where I left in the U.S., I would say that Thailand right now is about February in the U.S., January, February. So, I mean, some things maybe more like July last year with the lockdowns and stuff that are happening right now. But you have people that, I'm going to be honest, Thai people are cleaner than people in the U.S. Just because, well, it's also nice to take 2 showers a day here, where sometimes in the U.S. people don't take 2 showers a week. So, yeah, there are those people. So, and also like the way of greeting, the way of like dealing with masks. Masks are not a political issue here. Masks are a just way of life. The only time that I don't wear a mask is when I'm walking on the beach, which is pretty much alone outdoors and by myself. So even while, and I've said this before, riding a motorcycle, you're still wearing a mask while riding a motorcycle. So I mean that's where it is here. So I honestly think that we're going to see the curve here start to happen and things get better. That's what I predict as of, recording time. We'll see if I'm right, if I'm wrong. But
They just need a lot more vaccinations, and they need
Yeah.
a lot more supply.
and I was seeing that they're doing like, 1 or 2 days. I saw they were doing like 600,000 per day. I'm trying to remember. I think that they had it on the show notes on the Bangkok podcast. There was this site
I-
that they were talking
I-
about where you could see vaccines.
I know that they're 3 months behind. 3 weeks behind on vaccines appointments here in Hua Hin and in Sha'am. They're 3 weeks behind, and that's for the
Okay.
over 60s and over 50s.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a news article where there were a bunch of people lined up to outside of the store to get some of the Pfizer shots. Let me see if I can find that. If you
I
guys want to.
think there was like thousands and thousands lined up for like 2,000 shots.
Yeah, and it was like for pregnant people, obese people, people over 60. I think was the criteria for that.
Diabetes, cancer, stuff like that. Six diseases and over 60.
Yeah.
There's criticism a lot. There's some governments. There's been about 4 governments who have vaccinated their people, who have brought vaccine in for their expats who live here, whereas U.S., Canada, Australia, Britain, they haven't done anything for the expats at all.
Actually, so
Whereas they
I
did.
did see.
They did when for SARS, evidently, in the past, but they haven't done it for COVID.
Well, I need to correct that information a little bit because I was a staunch, somebody who was staunchly saying, "Oh, the U.S. isn't doing anything." Recently, there have been links and signups for expats to get vaccinated, and specifically, I saw from travel.state.gov that there is a link now on there for U.S. citizens to get vaccinated.
Well, I'll correct you on that.
How
That
far
is-
that's gone.
That is not them. That is the Thai government saying to some of the embassies, "We can vaccinate some of your people. Can you send out your mailing list, or can you do this?" Those came straight from the Thai government.
Oh.
Because I know friends who got the
Okay.
AstraZeneca vaccine in Bangkok. It was only being done in Bangkok. And they got notified by their embassies that this is not through the embassy, but that you could go here, you could reply with this, and they would make the list for the Thai government they would submit the list to the Thai government, because the Thai government allocated about 100 vaccines for each country. And that's all it was. So it wasn't from the embassies, just that some of the embassies accepted the invite from the Thai government and forwarded it on. That was it.
Okay. So it's not the U.S.
No.
embassy doing it.
No.
So, yeah, I thought that was.
'Cause
All right. Well, I guess I can't give you credit, U.S. That makes me just more happy.
Yeah, because I got one from the Canadian embassy. And we tried to sign up my wife, but she didn't get it because she's a Canadian citizen as well. So
Yeah. Cool dual citizenship, but unfortunately, right now it doesn't help.
no.
I don't know. It sucks. It sucks to see like a bunch of businesses going under. I mean, before the show, we were talking, about just, businesses that have been around for 40 years that are going out of business.
Yeah. Some of the best places that you love to go to as a tourist, they'll never be back. Unfortunately,
but
to my knowledge, I know in Canada and in the UK, I don't know about the US, there was some financial support for businesses, but there really hasn't been very much of, I won't say none, but there really hasn't been much here that's made a difference for people.
Gotcha.
In the US, it was...
Yeah,
we had some, but it was misallocated terribly because it was the banks that were in charge of allocating the money. So the banks gave all of the paycheck protection programs and all of that to the businesses that were least likely to fail, so the banks could get their loans paid back, which were the larger businesses. If you want to see more about that, I recommend a Louis Rossmann video.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
I want to say back in May of 2020, where he was talking about that, and you'll get more of the details on it.
Yeah.
It was not a good allocation of money there. It was actually probably the worst possible situation.
It was supposed to be for small businesses and limited medium-sized businesses, but it ended up going pretty heavily to medium-sized businesses, and the small businesses that got it, you're right, are the ones that were deemed safe from failure.
So many big multinational companies or international companies, or not big national companies, if I remember correctly, some of the biggest names ever, who didn't need it, who were actually still doing good business during COVID. Yeah, I remember those stories.
Because they can afford to set up the online distribution centers. If it's, you can't buy toys from the toy store down the street, but you can buy it from Amazon.
Yeah.
You're now having the government, in a terrible way, prop up large industry versus small business, which is what some of the people, and I've seen this argument over and over on Facebook, some of the people that are like COVID is a complete sham or a conspiracy, they use this as ammunition for their arguments to say that. I don't believe that.
Well, your previous government, its reputation, might have even, you don't know that wasn't their intention in the first place.
I don't know. I think a lot of I am not a fan of the previous government. I am not a fan of the current government in the U.S. But I wouldn't go that far with that.
Well, they love big business. And he's got a Okay.
True.
I don't
change
know.
the subject. We don't want to go politics. Okay. We'll alienate some people.
Maybe we'll.
I mean, I can
we'll
agree
have
or disagree and
not
hate somebody, but there's some people who, if they don't agree with you, they think you're absolutely dirt. So.
That's stupid. It's boring if everybody has the same opinion, and it's more fun. Like, do you want more spice in life? Do you want more different flavors?
Yeah.
Even if you don't like some of those flavors, it's happy that they exist. Like durian. Durian's so fun to talk about.
No. Okay.
It reminds me of the scene from Fifth Element with Zorg pushing the glass off his desk and goes, look at the chaos and all of the little things that have jobs and all of the little, and to some extent I kind of agree with that without a dash of chaos, life would be stagnant. But only a dash, not like
all the glass
death and destruction
everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, on a more important note, because somebody's missing, Mr. Dad Joke himself.
Oh yes.
Oh God.
What do you call a group of dolphin actors?
Dolphin actors. I don't want to know.
I don't
I don't want to know.
A podcast.
I was thinking pod, and I couldn't make that final connection.
That's good. I
That is a good
actually
one.
like that. Yeah.
That's it.
That
That's
makes
all.
me
That's
happy.
all I got.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
and
the
with
right
that,
amount.
yes, 1 to 2 an episode, I'm okay
Yeah.
with.
Oh.
More than that,
Okay. So I
nah.
guess that's it.
Anyway, Tim, where can we find you?
On YouTube when I produce something, but we do have a number of videos up as our Thai journey. Discord is Fake Farang, and Instagram is our Thai journey as well. Oh, and did I say Facebook? Our Thai journey. We have a page.
Nope. All right.
Okay, but not very active,
Awesome.
unfortunately. But there I am.
All right. Cody.
So you can find me on YouTube at Striving to Fail. You can also find me, and I just started doing this recently because it's lockdown. I have started streaming, and as of right now, I am streaming on Facebook because I wanted to try something new. Somebody brought up a good point that I should start streaming on Facebook before Twitch to try and gain an audience. So we're trying to do that, even though I think Facebook is an evil, evil company which should die a non-glorious death because they don't deserve that glory. Anyway, say all of that. I'm going to promote my Facebook page, which is Striving to Fail, and I have to figure. Right now, I'm just streaming to friends, so I got to figure out how to not do that and change that setting. So I will figure that out after this podcast and stream there. Anyway, we'll take it over to Brandon, who will tell us all about himself too.
Yes. I am on TikTok and Instagram as bvader86, and I should be posting more stuff to YouTube, but I haven't in a while. Techpirate.net, or the Tech Pirate on YouTube, as well as I have a couple of motorcycle videos from last year under just Brandon Vader at YouTube. And I need to get better about writing articles for the techpirate.net. So far, Seeker has kind of been carrying that, and I need to help with that burden eventually.
He is a good writer, though, so still go there and
Seeker,
read
yes.
the articles.
Colton is an amazing writer. He let me actually plug that real quick because he just did a write-up.
Yeah, so TechPirate.net or TechPirate.net is actually like a culmination of a few people in our group. I've done one article, so I could claim that too. That was not well written, but I still did one. First article I ever wrote. Brandon also writes some articles. Charlie eventually, he said that he's going to write an article.
He keeps saying.
I believe that he will eventually. And then, of course, Colton, or Seeker, has also done probably the majority of the articles on that site. And he is a pretty good writer, so I would really recommend hopping on there and read articles like...
No, they are not banning gaming computers, where Colton goes into deep detail about the California Energy Commission Tier 2 regulations that just went into effect on July 1st. And then he also has a very good article about FTC and the right to repair that highly recommend reading if you are interested in the right to repair.
And what I like about that...
it doesn't mean that we're going to force you to fix your own shit, but you should have the option.
Exactly. Having the options to do things is better than not having the option to do things. And I think most people will agree on that. And he also, my favorite part about that is he links the actual documents too. So you can see the documents, even if you, for some reason, don't like his text, you're welcome to look through them yourself. And plus, everybody should do your own research too.
Yep.
Makes you a smarter person.
Absolutely. And with that, let me find my outro. I should have it memorized
that
by now,
nobody's
but
screwing
I do not.
with this week because
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have Charlie here, so I don't need to find my sticky note with it written on there. Thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For you social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at ThisTWIL. If you'd like to contact us, you can of course send an email to twil@thetechpart.net. And we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye!
Bye. Thank you.
I promise not to forget about you all next week. I'll put it in my electronic brain right after the show.
What is everybody using for their phone right now?
I am using
the. Go
I'm
ahead,
us-
Tim.
I'm using a Xiaomi Mi 9T Pro. It's about 2 years old now.
Ah. How do you like the user interface on that? Because I was really debating.
I love it. Yeah, it doesn't have
it
doesn't have a lot of bloatware or anything on it, and it's got a lot of nice features. It works really
I
good.
am really considering trying to sell this again on the secondhand market because of the bloatware on it. I thought I removed most of it, which I had to do a bunch of fancy thing to get the bloatware off of the Vivo, but I was really looking at one of the Xiaomis to see if I wanted to get that.
The only thing it has that I found annoying is it has its own browser, and so I usually run with Chrome instead. I make it default to Chrome, but you can't get rid of its own browser. It's still there, but it's not anywhere on my desktop or anything or on my screen.
You can, and if you really want it gone, I can get rid of it for you.
Okay. But otherwise,
you just have to do some stuff.
I love this new theme that I got from them. Oh, I don't know, it's not going to show up. I got egg split running.
You gotta put it in front of your body, and there you go.
Okay. You have a protuberance, a very colorful protuberance.
All right, and you, Brandon?
I am still using my trusty Note 10 Plus Black Edition. It's the 512 gig internal storage model that I spent way too much money on. It's very flashy and shiny, but it lives in a case constantly.
And it's got that has an IP rating, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It does. This has actually been in the shower with me a few times. Like right when I got it, because it was that cool factor of I can listen to music and have it like
Is that how
in
you
the
work?
shower.
Is that where you watch your porn?
Huh?
That's
where
what
you
you were
watch your
doing in the
porn?
shower with it.
No.
No, never. No, but nobody watches porn. That yep. TWIL fact.
I can
Nobody.
promise you, I did not watch porn on this in the shower. It was literally only used for music, or I think one day I started watching part of the level 1 text video before bed and threw it up in there and was just enjoying the hot shower. But I am going to end up replacing it with the Surface Duo 2 when that comes out, even though the Surface Duo 2 is not expected to have an IP rating.
Yeah,
But because it's a Microsoft product, but because it's a Microsoft product, you can get the Microsoft device warranty, which is a one-time, like you pay once up front for it, and then you are protected for 2 to 3 years. Like on my Surface Go 2, I have the 2-year warranty on it. And I've had good luck with the Microsoft Surface warranty stuff in the past, and I figure if something happens to the Duo 2 and I kill it at some point before I'm ready to move to the next phone, then that will give me that one time where then I can either decide, okay, that really was a freak accident, or that might happen again. Let me now sell this fresh device on the secondary market to get something with an IP rating. But
You say they have that new I think it's Samsung foldable one that's just been announced. I think it's a ridiculous price though, 1,500 or 1,700 euros. I can't remember.
That's
God.
how much I paid for this.
Oh,
it was about 1,600.
I guess it's about 450.
45,000 baht here in Thailand. I saw that at the stores, but they had like the fancy gold version, and it just looked too gaudy for me. And it's like,
So that was probably the Note 20 Ultra, and that is bronze.
Yeah. Okay.
Bronze
it was the 20.
Yeah.
It's really funny whenever you go into like a store, and I think I forgot to leave this off of my phone episode, but when you go into a store here looking for phones, an electronics store, so the store might be like Banana IT or JIB are the two stores, but they'll have like a girl working for Xiaomi, a girl working for Oppo, a girl working for
Samsung
Vivo, and like the Samsung girl. And so you like if you start browsing, they'll like just flock to you.
You want Oppo? Come with me. No, you want Samsung.
Or they'll run away because you don't speak Thai. They'll try not to make eye contact with you. Yeah. You get
I don't know
what reaction.
They were pretty nice when I was doing it because I'd always ask about complex questions about water resistance and micro SD cards.
By the way, that was highly amusing because I got to basically ride along with you on that first pass through, and you were asking questions about water resistance, and they were just like, I don't know.